video, I am going to teach you how to identify if the given trinomial is a perfect square and how to factor perfect square trinomials. So let's first study how to identify if the given trinomial is a perfect square. But before that, we need to consider two conditions, okay? So the first one, it says here that the first and the last term of the trinomial must be positive and at the same time perfect squares. So pag sinabi nating perfect squares, by the way, I have a list on your modules, list ng perfect squares, either number and then variables. Okay, you can just go to that and check what are perfect squares. So, dapat daw positive and perfect squares. And then the middle term can be either negative or positive and twice the product of the roots of the first and last terms. So, without explaining, let's just solve some examples. Now, let's say we have example number 1 here, and the trinomial is x squared minus 8x plus 16. So how do we know if this trinomial is a perfect square? So let's investigate first the first condition. Sabi ng first condition, dapat daw yung first and last terms mo positive at the same time they are perfect squares. By the way, the perfect squares now, the perfect square numbers are 1, 4, 9, 16, okay? 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, like that, 100. And then sa variables naman, dapat yung exponent niya multiples ng 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, dapat ganun yung exponent niya. In this example, x squared is a perfect square. Yes, this is a perfect square. Ang exponent niya ay 2. Diba? Variable siya, therefore this is a perfect square. Also, 16 is a perfect square kasi 4 times 4 is 16. Okay? So, okay yung unang condition. How about the second condition? Okay? Sabi, the middle term can be either negative or positive. But then, we will check using the roots of these two. So, paano po ba kumuha ng roots? Square roots lang yan. Ano? Kukunin natin yung square roots. Square root ni x squared and 16. Okay? Okay na tayo sa first condition. First condition, okay na tayo dito. Tama siya. Okay? Second condition na lang. We're investigating the second condition. So, sabi daw niya, kapag daw yung twice the product of the roots ng first and last terms ay equal dito sa middle term. Ano daw? Twice the product of the roots of the first and last term. So, medyo magulo, no? To cut it short, so we will be getting the square root of the first and last terms. Okay? So, ano ang square root ni x squared? O that is x. Kasi x times x is x squared. Okay? That is x. Yun yung square root niya. How about square root ni 16? That is 4. Okay? And then, there are two conditions kapag kumukuha tayo ng square root ng numbers. Dalawa dapat yung sign niya. Okay? It's either positive or negative. Kasi diba, when we multiply 4 times 4, the answer is 16. When we multiply negative 4 times negative 4, the answer is 16. Okay? So, there will be two solutions na mangyayari dito. Okay? So, yung isa, gamitin natin si positive 4, yung isa, si negative. Ayan. So, applicable lang yung two symbols or two signs na yon sa numbers. Dito sa variables, hindi na kailangan mag-positive yung isa or mag-negative yung isa. Okay? Kasi mag-iiba na yon. And then, sabi, twice the product of the roots. So, ito na yung roots. Nakuha na natin yung roots. Okay? So, lagyan natin ng number 1 and then number 2. Kapag ba sinabi natin twice the product, ibig sabihin, you're going to multiply this and then you're going to multiply it again by 2 kasi twice. Okay? So, yan. Multiply natin ng dire-diretso ngayon. So, dito, 2 times x times 4, that is 8x. Okay? Minultiply lang natin actually si 2 and 4. And then, variable na to, so, tinabi lang natin dito sa numerical coefficient, which is 8. Okay? That is 8x. How about 2 times x times negative 4? The answer is negative 8x. So, napansin nyo, yung middle term natin ay negative 8x. So, pasok ba siya dito sa kahit alin dito sa dalawang solution natin? Yun, pasok siya. Therefore, example number 1 is a perfect square trinomial. Okay? Perfect square trinomial siya. Or if gusto nyo, mas mabilis nyong malaman, mayroon akong nilagay na reminder dyan sa module nyo. Sabi ko, if the sign of the middle term is negative, it means that the root of the last term is negative also. Tama, di ba? Dito kasi nung kinuha natin yung square root, chinek pa natin pareho. So, nire-rate natin pareho, positive tsaka negative. Pero napansin nyo nga na yung middle term ay negative. O therefore, ito dapat yung gagamitin natin, no? Sa pagkuha ng square root ng last term kasi negative siya. Pag naman daw yung sign ng middle term nyo ay positive, therefore, yung gagamitin yung root ni last term ay positive din. Okay? So, let's solve another example. Let's say we have 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. So, let's check the first condition, no, kung tama. Yung first condition, dapat daw yung first and last terms perfect square and positive. So, observing this, 9x squared is a perfect square. Okay? 9 is a perfect square kasi 3 times 3 is equal to 9. X squared is also a perfect square. Positive 1, that is also a perfect square. So, therefore, tama, na-achieve niya yung first condition. How about the second condition? Okay? So, yung sign ng middle term nyo ay negative. Okay? So, we need to remember na if we will get the square root of the last term, 1, negative din ilalagay natin. Okay? So, let's check if the middle term is correct here. So, kunin natin yung square root ng first and last term. So, kunin natin square root nito. Ayan. So, ano square root ni 9x squared? That is 3x, di ba? And then, we need to twice. So, times natin sa 2, always. And then, square root ni 1, ang ilalagay natin ay negative kasi negative yung middle term natin. Okay? So, negative 1. Check natin kung ang magiging product ay itong middle term. So, 2 times 3x, that is 6x. Okay? Times negative 1, that is negative 6x. So, tama. Same sila ng middle term. Therefore, this trinomial is a perfect square trinomial. No? Kasi, nasatisfy niya yung dalawang condition. So, dalawang condition, dapat yung first and last term ay parehong positive, parehong perfect square. Dapat yung twice the product of the roots ng first and last term, ang sagot, dapat magiging yung middle term niya. Okay? Last example naman. Let's say we have x squared minus 9x plus 81. So how do we identify if this is a perfect square? trinomial. So, check natin yung first condition always. First condition, dapat daw ay perfect square yung first and last term. Dapat positive and perfect square. So, in this example, perfect square si x squared, yes. Perfect square din si 81. Okay? Parang silang perfect square. So, therefore, nasatisfy niya yung first condition. How about yung second condition? Na dapat daw, yung twice the product of the roots of first and last terms must be the middle term. So, let's check it. So, twice the product, no? Times niya agad sa 2. Kunin ngayon natin yung root ng first and last terms. So, dito, square root ng x squared, that is x. Ang middle term natin, negative. So, ang kukunin natin na square root nito ay negative 10. Square root ng 81, that is negative 9. Okay? So, multiplying this, dapat ang lalabas yung middle term for us to determine if it is a perfect square trinomial. So, 2 times x, that is 2x, times negative 9. The answer is negative 18x. So, hindi sila magkamukha ng middle term. Therefore, hindi niya na-satisfy yung second condition. Okay? Therefore, this example is not a perfect square trinomial. Kailangan kasi masatisfy mo both condition for you to call that trinomial a perfect square. Kung hindi niya na-satisfy yung first or yung second, you cannot identify it as a perfect square trinomial. Kailangan pareho na condition yung masatisfy niya. Now, let's move on how to factor perfect square trinomials. So, we need to refer to these formats. Okay, so x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. So, the factored form will be this. Okay, so I'm going to write factored form here. So the factored form of this perfect square trinomial is quantity x plus y squared. Then the second one, x squared minus, minus 2xy plus y squared. And then its factored form will be quantity x minus y squared. So let's investigate this form. So as you can see, if the middle term is positive, the factored form is positive also. Pansin nyo? And then if the middle term is negative, the factored form is negative also. So yun lang kailangan yung tandaan. And then paano nakuha si x and si y? That is the square root of the first and last terms, diba? Yun lang yun. So, what you need to do is to square the first and last term and then observe the sign of the middle term. And then, i-square nyo lang siya. Ganun lang siya kadali. So, let's solve an example. Going to delete that. Let's solve yung in-investigate natin kanina na perfect square trinomials. Okay? So, let's solve. Let's factor x squared minus 8x plus 16. This is an example of a perfect square trinomial, di ba? Kasi sinolve natin to kanina. In-investigate natin to. Okay? So, how do we factor this? Given that this is a perfect square trinomial. So, katulad nung sinabi ko sa inyo kanina. So, I'm going to write the answer here. To get the answer, you need to get the square root of the first and last term. Okay? So, the square root of the first term is x. Okay? And then the square root of the last term is 4. Now, paano na ma'am yung sign? Okay? So, yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina. Diba? Na na-observe natin na if the middle term is positive, the sign of the factored form is positive also. If the middle term is negative, the sign of the factored form is negative also. Ano ba ang sign ng middle term natin? O sige, hindi ko bibilugan lahat. Ano ba ang sign? Ano yung sign niya? Hindi ba? Negative. So therefore, ang sign ng factored form natin is negative also. And we just need to square it. So therefore, this is your answer. That easy. Okay? How about another example? Let's say we have 9x squared and then negative 6x plus 1. So I'm going to write the answer here. Okay? And then get the square root of the first and the last terms. So the square root of 9x squared, that is 3x, diba? The square root of 1 is 1. How about the sign between them? Just follow the sign of your middle term, which is negative. Therefore, the sign of your factored form is negative, and then you need to square it. This will be your answer. That easy. Okay? How about another example? Let's say we have a squared plus 10a plus 25. Okay? How do we factor this? So this is an example of a perfect square trinomial. Lahat ng i-given ko. Okay? So the answer is this. So we will get the square root of the first and last terms in the trinomial. So the square root of a squared is a, and then the square root of 25 is 5. Just going to move this closer. Ayan. Paano naman po yung sign? So, just take a look at the sign of your middle term, and that is positive. Therefore, the sign of your factored form is also positive. And then, square mo lang siya. So, this will be your answer. Another example. Okay? Let's say we have 16m squared minus 4m plus 1. So, rewrite niyo na agad yung answer. Okay lang na hindi masyadong madami yung solution. Kasi, ganun lang siya kadali. Okay? So, we will be getting the square root of the first and then the last terms. So, the square root of the first term is 4m. Square root of the last term is 1. And then, their sign is negative. Kasi negative yung sign ng middle term. Then, square lang natin siya. That will be your answer. And then there is a word problem in your module, no? You're just going to apply factoring perfect square trinomials there. And then there are conditions na I'm sure you can answer. So good luck!